forage crop genetic resources, as we know, there are so many plants and there and some byproducts which are fed to our livestock. Some are solely fed to the livestock, while some are partially like straw, which are byproducts or for cereal crops. These forage crop genetic resources, what they are, these consist of all crop species which provide fodder and forage to the livestock. Hence, they have an important role, they have a pivotal role in our economy, in the economy of the country, as well as throughout the world. So, there are different sources of fodder available in different regions of the country. As I see, the group is very diverse, and some people are from central India, some are from eastern parts, as I see from their surnames and details. So, in different states, we have different forage resources. If I talk about Kashmir, the temperate region, we have majorly oats, maize, and some barsim, legumes, and different perennial grasses, which we usually call here rye grass is there, orchard grass is there. In central India, it is Guinea grass, Bajra Napier hybrid, and sorghum, alfalfa in South Dharwad region, Ladakh region. So, with the diversity amongst the states, due to climate and other uh, edaphic factors, locality factors, I can say, in general, we have wide diversity of our forage crop genetic resources throughout the country. But if we see, there is still a shortage of forage crop genetic forage for our to feed our animals, and thus this issue is an important one, so that we can meet the demand, we can bridge the gap between the supply and demand of fodder for our livestock. If we see our, as per the latest census of livestock, if we see 2012 records, Indian livestock population is largest in the world. We have 512 million livestock population, which is huge one. And amongst it, it is 190 million is cattle, the major one. The second ranks the buffalo, which is 108 million population. And feed requirement, nearly 2/3 of our feed requirement, what we get, I have already told, is from crop residues. It is a byproduct of our cereals like rice, wheat, and other cereal crops. 883 million tons of green fodder is required to feed such a population of livestock in the country, but we have only 583 million tons of this available. There's a gap. And if we see land allocation, less than 5% gross cropped area of our country is under forage crops. So we have two options: either to increase this area under forage crops, or to improve our forage genetic resources, so that we can improve the productivity of our forage crops. One thing I would like to tell you is that these forage crops, there are many forage crops which have an immense potential to feed our livestock, but unfortunately they are underutilized. They are orphan crops. No much research has been conducted on such crops, especially the perennial grass and legumes. Say in our own Kashmir, we have Lolium multiflorum, we have ryegrass, other Lolium perenni, we have one more Sanfine, that's a legume, we have red clover, white clover, that is usually present in our orchards, but we don't have and improved cultivars of those species. And these are highly under-researched crops, under-exploited, with low levels of utilization in present scenario. So, but they have an economic importance. They can serve as a gene pool for improvement of different, say, forest crops as well as cereal crops. In terms of monetary terms, their ecological importance, social and cultural importance, and they augment major crop genetic resources through improvement. As I told you that the population of livestock in the country is huge. If we take northwestern Himalayan region, total livestock population JK, Himachal and Uttarakhand is 92 lakh, 48 lakh and 47 lakh. That is respectively, that is 3.67% of the country as per the 2012 census. But the livestock productivity is very low due to this acute shortage of fodder, due to acute shortage of quality fodder, rather I can say. And there's a huge deficit. In our state, Jammu and Kashmir, there is the deficit is 67% for green fodder and 27% for dry fodder. So some people would think that why not we increase the cropped area? On other hand, human population is also increasing. Our developmental activities are also increasing. So we have no option to go for this increase in the grass cropped area. That will add more pressure to human population and other activities which are necessary for our development. So the important aspect is how we can conserve, we can manage these forest genetic resources so that we can bridge the gap. One thing, as this training program is regarding research projects on different aspects like that, I have gone through the title of the training program. So today I will focus on how we can conserve and manage through research. There are different research issues which we will be discussing in this lecture. As I told that there are diverse, underutilized forage crops. What the need of our is to explore and evaluate major underutilized forage crop genetic resources of your region and understand what are the major issues regarding these fodder resources. What are their solutions? How we can manage them? How we can conserve them? How we can exploit them? So that we bridge the gap between the demand and supply. What is required? What is the need of the hour? So what methodology we should follow? The first thing, we should explore these forage resources, forage crops from different grasslands, from different pastures, from different local farmers who are the actual guardians of these forest crop genetic resources. Then evaluate these forest crop genetic resources for different productivity traits, for different qualitative traits, quantitative traits. See their genetics, how these are inherited, that pattern of inheritance. And we have to survey and interact with the local guardians, that is the farmers, pastoralists, and related people, and discuss with them different aspects of forest crop genetic resources. If I talk of our state, our Kashmir, that's a temperate region, we have different forest legumes and different forest grasses. Legumes majorly include red clover, white clover, alfalfa, sandpine, Egyptian clover, foot trefoil, crown wedge, hairy wedge, and the grasses include ryegrass, perennial ryegrass, tall fescue, red fescue, orchard grass, phalaris, brome grass, and timothy. These are the grasses of these legumes of our state. And if you see those who are from central India, BN hybrid is one of the major grasses. That's a triploid hybrid, and that is highly productive, up to 1200 tons per hectare. And sorghum, we have maize, we have cowpea, rice bean, napier, guinea grass, and alfalfa, which have good fodder quality as well as this productivity. One major thing which determines the quality of the fodder is the approximate principles, the composition of the nutrient value. That is one major. Amongst that, the major one is the crude protein value, how much crude protein is available in that fodder and the cutting management is important also, because the values change with the stage of the crop. So usually we consider at the half flowering stage is the best one for major forage crops to be harvested for feeding to the livestock, and the nutritive value at that point is better. If we see the crude protein in sorghum, it is 7.75%, whereas if you compare it with any legume, like alfalfa, it is around 20%. In our state, we have Sanfine. The crude protein content of Sanfine is around 24%. I will highlight different grasses and legumes of our region. I will take 3-4 legumes and 3-4 grasses, major ones, which must be highlighted because they are highly underutilized in the state. First is Sanfine. Sanfine, you will find it very less, but as I told you that the nutritive value of this legume is very high, and its productivity is 14 to 16 tons dry matter per hectare. Basically, it was from Eurasian region, that is its origin, and it is best adapted to well-drained calcareous soils. It has a deep taproot system. It grows about 1 meter high, many hollow stems, and it is multi-cut perennial legume. Once you are raise it, once you plant it, for 4 or 5 years, you will get 2 to 3 to 4 cuts in a year. Depends how much uh, water is available, moisture is available, and how much fertilizers you are applying, like that, and the stage of the cut. And it's a beautiful inflorescence which can be used for apiculture. It's one in if we consider the climate change aspect, this this valuable legume is drought tolerant, climate resilient, and is resilient to evil attack. That is a biotic citrus. But unfortunately, it is still underutilized in the region. And one more thing, it has condensed tannins, which are anti-helminthic, because helminths, ascariasis, and other problems, they are majorly found in our livestock. But when we have such a wonderful species which have condensed tannins, so they provide anti-helminthic feed to our livestock. And one more thing, we commonly observe, like in red clover, white clover, there's bloating problem. If we feed our livestock more than 30% of the legume, then we see there is some problem in the animals. But this legume, the Sanfine, it does not have any bloating problem. So besides this, I told you that it is good for apiculture. It has some duties. It is wonderful, colorful, beautiful inflorescence, have some positive impacts on other relevant species, like those who are associated with honeybees. So it can provide a good platform for sustainable farming, and it will improve the soil health, being a legume. Second, we will take this red clover. Red clover is also commonly found, which if we have a look at our orchards, there's a red colored flower that is up to half a meter height at maximum in our fields. In the wild, it is not more than 30 centimeter height. The, this legume improves the soil characteristics, improves the productivity of our soil, and its nutritive value, its crude protein is also around 20%. But it has bloating problems, so if we feed to our livestock, so it must not be given more than 30% as a part of our feed. We have crown wedge. Crown wedge, most of us, those who are from the region also, Kashmir, they don't know what is crown wedge. Because even those who are concerned with the livestock nest, it's a good legume and has good soil binding characteristics, majorly used by the soil conservation department for this purpose. But it is this fodder value is also good. Its productivity is also better. It is, I can say, at par with most of the grasses if grown scientifically. It has a tough, aggressive spreading plant. It is a tough, aggressive spreading plant with a complex root system, fern-like leaves. Thus, because of this root system, it's an excellent erosion control species. However, it is underutilized. Its crude protein is around 21.7%, and it has a crude fiber of 22%, almost the equivalent percentage. But it is usually given to ruminant animals. It may cause some health issues in non-ruminants. 200 quintals per hectare is the productivity of green fodder in this species. Then we have, if we take now grasses of our region, first we must not forget is ryegrass. Those who are from Kashmir, we call it kharigas, Shipian grass, like that. It's a tough annual short-lived or this perennial legume. We have two species, Lolium multiflorum and Lolium perenni. Lolium perenni is an annual and Lolium multiflorum is a perennial legume. It is a grass, sorry. It is also native to Eurasian region. It grows up to 100 centimeter, and the roots, they are fibrous roots. The entire plant is smooth and hairless, numerous long stiff leaves, and the its seeds don't have earnless seed, which is make it different from some different other grasses. It is also having wide adaptability and is majorly cultivated here under orchards as orchard flower management. But still, it is underutilized, I can say. Taking care of its productivity potential, it is this where it adaptability and other aspects, but it is not climate resilient. It does not withstand hot, dry weather or severe winters. But here it is okay. We have observed, we have cultivated it under orchards as sole crops. It has performed very well. So nothing problematic in our region. And the crude protein of it is around 18 to 19%. Then second is tall fescue, Festuca rondinacea. It is also a robust, long, comparatively deep root bunch grass, perennial. It grows up to 1 meter height. It is adapted to cool and humid climates and is very well suitable to our region. Growth is better if provided with adequate moisture, which establishes very well, and it is comparable with the in productivity with this lolium. As I told you, we have one more grass, that is orchard grass, that is Dactyls glomerata, one of the major forage grasses grown throughout the world, especially in the temperate regions, uh, in pasture management, in hay and silage making, and the, it is having better productivity as compared to the tall fescue and this lolium ryegrass. Its productivity green fodder yield is 22.20.
Excuse me, Doctor sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. You have presentation, sir.
So presentation will not be there. It will be a talk only.
Okay, sir. Okay.
What you want actually?
No, sir, they were asking for a presentation.
No, I don't have presentation.
Okay, sir. Continue, please.
I don't have presentation. I was not knowing about it. Sorry. Then one more grass is orchard grass. That is also which I was talking about. Its productivity is 22 to 25 tons per hectare, and drive fodder productivity is 78 tons per hectare, which makes it an excellent grass species. It's a perennial. It can give 3 to 4 cuts in a year. But unfortunately, it is underutilized in the region. I highlighted with you some grasses, some legumes. If from your region, I can say you must all know that cactus, Opuntia ficus indica, that can be fed to our livestock as a part of fodder. Our institute at Jhansi, Indian Grassland and Fodder Research Institute Jhansi, they have proved it. They have adapted it as a part of fodder up to 30% to feed our livestock, and it is almost available throughout the year. But most of the people in villages, they don't use, because they don't know uh, it is how we can use it also as fodder. But research, as we are all dealing with, we have no option to leave. We have no option to leave such resources underutilized. It is the need of our that we should take all these forest crop resources, forest crops, whether it is a grass, it's a legume, in our states, in depends on our agroclimatic regions from where you belong, how we can exploit them, how we can conserve them, how we can manage them, so that we feed our animals today, and tomorrow there will be no shortage of fodder. That is sustainable fodder management we have to see. For that, as I told you, the first part important thing is exploration. Exploration is for these fodder crop genetic sources important. We can't neglect that. We can't underestimate. We can't underestimate the value of exploration. We have to see. We have to visit our pastures, grasslands. As I told you, also the local guardians, the farmers, pastoralists, and know the different forage crop genetic source, their value, what most of us do not know, because we have ignored those local guardians also, unfortunately. In our institute, we have surveyed throughout India. Our station at Srinagar is dealing with the temperate regions, and we have surveyed different parts of Kashmir, Ladakh, Uttarakhand, Himachal, and likewise in central India, we have IGFR headquarters at Jhansi. They have surveyed different parts of the India regarding forage crops. their potential, evaluated them at their institute. And in south, we have a station at Dharwad. In Rajasthan, we have at Avikanagar. So the major thing is that how we can tap the forage crop potential of different regions, and is done by our institute. Various SAUs, they are also doing work on this aspects, like Himachal HP, this Palampur University, they have done a wonderful job on this fescues, and they have released varieties like Hima 1, 2 on this perennial grasses. And at our center in Srinagar, we have 25 accessions of tall fescue. Orchard grass, we have more than 30. And we have Timothy grass, we have red fescue, we have Phalaris. We had even conducted station trials of these grasses. Like Phalaris, we did it, and we had some accession which is having 750 quintals per hectare productivity in Phalaris 2, Ajaphora Phalaris 2. In the red color, we have also done it. See, when we are collecting, after exploration, what is the next step? Next step is evaluation. If you have collected the germplasm from different parts of your state, from different parts of country, we have to evaluate them at our location. Giving the same location, we can say the site variation is 0, and whatever the variation is coming out, what in productivity, in quality, that is because of genetic composition, because phenotype is genotype plus environment and their interaction effect of these. So based on that, we can come out with conclusions that this specific accession, this specific collection is performing better, and we can then after have this multi-location trials and see whether our results, they are working properly, they are working well in different parts where it is cultivated, where it is grown, where it is found. Then after comes the release of a variety. Based on these station trials, then after we release a variety. So it's a long-term process, may take 6-7 years by the simple method. Second thing of observing the variability is through molecular markers. I would like not to touch more because this group is diverse, I think. So molecular markers, just these are different. What's a marker? Suppose we have population. There are 3 types of markers. One is phenotypic marker, biochemical marker, and molecular marker. Phenotypically, we can see that if we have a population of different accessions, in one accession we find the number of pods originating at a place in some legume is 3, and in others it is usually 2. So we can say, no, this one accession is different from the others. It's a phenotypic marker. Phenotypically, we could observe it. Second is biochemical markers. We can see the tannin percentage. We can see other things, and say phenolics. Third is the molecular marker, at which we work at the DNA level. So where from the ultimate variation arises. So we have to evaluate this variability. We have to see what is the reason of variation, whether it is environment, whether it is the genetic composition for these accessions, so that we can come out with accessions which are highly productive, which are suitable, which we have better quality. That way we can improve our forage productivity, so that the gap which is existing in forage supply and this demand that can be minimized. We can provide our animals healthy food. We can raise their productivity by exploiting our genetic variability, by exploiting our forage crop genetic sources to the level that we provide better varieties for this livestock rearing system. Second thing, when we have checked this variability, but we have checked this variability and we have come out with some varieties, it is not the time to leave those which are low productive, because we don't know. Tomorrow there can be a biotic or abiotic citrus, which is not the trait against which is not in our forage crop, our variety. So we have to go for breeding purpose. If we don't conserve our forage crop genetic resources, we can't go for breeding purpose, because we don't have material which is resistant to such biotic and abiotic stresses. For that is the conservation purpose. So whatever we collect, we evaluate it and send our material for long-term module, which is regarding fodder crops. We have at IGFRI Jhansi, and second, we submit our germplasm to the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, New Delhi, which is a bureau of ICAR. They conserve it for long-term and medium-term storage, and whenever we need this, we can request them. They will provide the material. We can use it for different purposes accordingly. So one more thing, I would like to tell you that there are some problems. There are some problems which we are facing with these grasses and legumes, especially in our country. Before that, we must understand what are the benefits from this forage crops. As I told you, it's a huge gene pool, and we can exploit it for better development. Productive benefits, these include the forage production, as I told you. Second thing, environmental benefits. If we see, besides some erosion control, which I told you, like ground mulch and these grass and legumes, they present a picturesque presentation of our localities. Like we have this some place like Sonnamarg. Marg, what is Marg? Marg is a pasture. Gulmarg and some other places in our Kashmir. They are world-renowned places because of their scenic beauty. And these grasses these play an important role in that pictures, this presentation of these places. Socio-economic benefits. If we take not only their livestock rearer, not only those who are having dairy farm and others, they get benefit from our forage crop genetic sources, quality fodder crops. Also those who are associated with this trade, if the productivity of livestock at the grassroots level is better, then only we can have better returns at higher levels. Trade will flourish, and biodiversity and wildlife is also one aspect which is important, because these host a lot of wild animals in the grasslands, in the pastures. So their in situ conservation is also important. That cannot be ignored. The problem, but we have some problems. We have some issues which we must consider at our priority, like conservation and management. As I told you that grasslands and pastures, these are resources which we cannot close and say it will be as there. Some people of you must be knowing climax vegetation how it this dynamics, vegetation dynamics. So there will be some species which will try to dominate, some suppress some grasses and legumes. They may also get suppressed, and if we are not managing well, they will get extinct, and it may lead to genetic erosion of these species, and we have to check that. Second is forage crop germplasm exchange and improvement. That is still in the infancy stage, and we have to take such issue. We have to exchange our material with other organizations working in this on the same species in the different parts of the country or internationally, so that we may come up with some varieties which will be better productive. Quality seed production, that is an important issue. We don't have quality seed production for most of these forest crops, and as I told you, local guardians we have ignored, and we must involve them in different aspects, whether it is this management at within the wild, outside, because whatever variety we develop, it has to go to the stakeholder. That is usually the farmer. That is the livestock rearer, I can say. So we have to take them under consideration always. Grazing management and fodder production has been a problem because uncontrolled grazing is inimical to forage crop genetic resources, because most of us, we know that some animals, they prefer some species while they don't prefer some other. That is the palatability. It is different for different grass and legumes, for different animals. Some browse, some graze. So we have to manage our grazing. We have to do controlled grazing so that we can not lose our this forage genetic resource. And in grasslands and pastures, they need improvement. They need reseeding somewhere. If it is improved, that needs to be managed. And threats like our developmental activities, they are major threats nowadays to our forest crops, and they have to be checked. We should prioritize things so that we may not lose all these genetic resources. And we have to identify alternative sources of energy and livelihood to the people who uh, who are directly associated, whose living is directly associated, like the tribals, so that their pressure, livestock pressure on these forest crops and resources reduce. And research issues, as I told you, that they are still in the infancy stage and have to be taken up at priority, I can say. One more thing, which all of you will agree, is the lack of extension, which is a major problem in our country. People are doing research, and that research is confined to our labs, but the extension agencies, they are not taking that issues, that products to the farmers. It's a complex issue, it's a complex problem, and has to be managed well so that our this varieties, they are taken up by the farmers, and the ultimate stakeholders are benefited. And one more thing, inter-institutional collaboration, as I once again stress, that has to be done, because it will be very helpful in improving our forage crop genetic resource. And wherever we have space, especially under orchards, where we should go for mixed farming. That will be also beneficial. That project we should take, that mixed farming, encourage mixed farming, that can be done. Pasture improvement, just I was telling about, it is very difficult task. It is not an easy task, but it can be done. because it can be done in patches. Somewhere we are doing this year, somewhere next year, and such developmental projects are funded by different agencies like NMHS. They are providing grants for taking up such activities, and that must be taken up. These one more thing, it often comes to our mind that these Gujar Bakarwalas and those living in the forests, Gaddis, and these tribal people, how can they benefit us from regarding these forest crops? They will only graze their livestock there and destroy whatever is there. No, no, it is wrong. I must tell you that they are the reservoirs of local knowledge, and that has to be tapped. For that, we need to do interactions with these farmers, with these local guardians, and that we have ignored. Second thing is they can plan our in situ and ex situ conservation measures for these FCGRs, forest traps. They conserve its wild relatives. As I have seen, myself visited different parts of Kashmir and outside. In some interior places in Lolab, that is in district Kupwara, North Kashmir, I visited there. And I came to know their different ITKs regarding fodder crops, how they conserve, how they manage, what is their perception regarding forage crops. And such knowledge is somewhere lacking in our system, and that has to be tapped. They play grazing management. They play an important role because it is they only who graze their animals. If they are educated well, what are the different effects of uncontrolled grazing? How we can take rotational grazing, controlled grazing, deferred grazing, like that, different aspects of grazing management. We can have a better productive pastures and grassland. And in this way, we can also conserve our forage crop genetic resources, save them from genetic erosion. And when you visit any locality, any this reservoir of these forage crops in the wild, without the help of local guardians, it will be very difficult task. So we have to take them along with, we have to take their help, we have to treat them as we are, so that we can get better knowledge, we can get better material, we can get better support from them, and that will be helpful in conservation and management of our forest crop germplasm, forest crop genetic sources. And this pasture management, that can also not be done without their support. Whatever developmental project, whatever this policy planning regarding these forest crops, if we are not taking them under consideration, it is very difficult to execute. So they play an important role. We cannot ignore them. One more thing regarding these fodder crop genetic sources is this we have some cultivated ones like oats. Oats we have, which is common. Oats, maize, and we have different varieties released from different state agricultural universities, from different SAUs, but they still are with them only. Majorly, I can say there are exceptional some varieties. They are common at farmers' field, but there are some varieties which need to be taken to the farmers' level, and that will help in increasing our forage productivity. Like we have in oats, we have Sabzar here. That's a productive variety, but farmers, they don't get seed. because the seed production of that variety, that has to be enhanced, that has to be increased so that it reaches to the farmers on time. And on time is important because sometimes we get the seed, but it is too late to sow. So like that, it's a common problem not only for forage crops, for other crop species also, for cereal crops also. That has to be done on time. So taking care of time, I think it is already 12. I must conclude my talk with the point that these forage crop genetic resources, they are important for the sustainable livestock system. We must conserve them. We must manage them. We must take up our research activities accordingly so that we may not lose our different forage crop species, their wild forms, and we should always take under consideration that there's a need of improvement because the demand for livestock products and livestock is increasing with the increasing population of humans throughout the world, and we cannot ignore our forage germplasm from conservation and management. Now, if you have any questions, you can please.
If you have any questions, please ask, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sir, I am Hujaz this side. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
I am audible.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, sir, I am Hujaz. This time I'm basically PhD animal nutrition. Sir, you have discussed very nicely about this lecture regarding the forage. Sir, can you throw some light in J&K whether we have to go the conventional pastures or we can use some high productive grains in those pastures, and you can name few and list some.
We can.
Use some
Conventional
high
pasture
production pastures, seeds. Any you can enlist some.
Yes. That is what I was telling about pasture improvement. Pasture improvement
So
we have taken up with the. Yes.
Sir, any particular seeds or variety, which crops which has been which you have found had improved a lot in this production part? Because I think production level is a little bit less when you compare with the Punjab in these pasture lands. So, if what varieties are which crop will be more suitable to them, our pastures?
Yes. See, this question was raised in this regional committee meeting also, and this for this North Regional Committee 13, which was conducted. It was in this Coast Kashmir last year by the DG, and this was chaired by the Honorable DG of the ICR, and the same question was there. Whether some pasture management through this, yes, the department has taken some material, some seeds like tall fescue and this orchard grass and ryegrass, and they have planted it somewhere in different pastures, and it is under establishment, and we are doing it. We are working on it.
Okay, sir. Sir, any recommendations from your side for farmers particularly? What can be at present done, and of course future research will be going from your side also. But at present, from which direction the farmer should move right now?
The farmer right now, the main important thing is in increasing productivity of quality fodder. We have different technologies. We have different technology at our farm. We are describing them like how we can go for mixed cultivation, how we can go for orchard floor management through these grass and legumes and increase our forage production. How we can which legumes and which grasses we should take up. How we can be reliable on these grass and legumes for our fodder demand. We are supplying seed to them, and we are taking them their feedback also. We are conducting different extension programs like awareness camps, and we are giving them free seed where they sow in their farm, and they rely on those fodder for this perennial, especially for these perennial grass and legumes. We supply them seed. So that their forage productivity that is increases. That is the important thing, because all these grass and legumes what we are giving them, they are having better quality fodder as compared to the what is growing there. These activities
Sir,
we are doing.
any research in conservation part has been done in this J&K particularly, I think so. Conservation, how
Yes,
to
we have.
conserve this water.
Yes, we have done it. As I was talking, we have during my lecture also I told that we have more than 30 exceptions of tall fescue, this orchard grass, and different. We have collected from different parts of the state, and we are have laid station trials also. And last year only we successfully conducted a station trial of Phalaris, and this red clover we have already taken in multi-location trials. It is an advanced stage for varietal development. And this year also, I laid a station trial of Senfine and Dactylis. And next year we have plan for ryegrass and this Festica rondinacea. So these
Thank you, sir.
activities are going on, and we are doing it. We have a major project on this collection, conservation, and this collection, evaluation, conservation, and this documentation of temperate forage crop genetic resources at our station, and I am handling that project.
Thank you, sir.
Any
Thank
other
you.
question? Any other question, please?
Hello.
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 Yes.
I'm Dr. Muzammil. I'm actually working as scientist at Motor Research Center for Sheep and Goat, Srinagar, Squash, Kashmir. Do we really need replacement of our grazing lands at high altitudes?
Do we really need for
Replacement or improvement of our food crops that are growing naturally in the highland pastures?
See, somewhere their condition is not better. That places we can go for this seeding of different legumes. Somewhere, if it is only grass, we can introduce some legume percentage also, so that the grazing, so that the productive quality of the forage which is available for our livestock, for our sheep, goat, whatever is growing there, that will be improved. That we can do. We should do it. I think we should do it, and we can do it.
I think actually I think it is replenished or improved by, naturally, because of there is 8 months snow cover. There is 8 months snow cover at that places. They get long duration of time to get renewed. After 8 months, they by their natural system they grow.
Yes, they grow.
I think we do not need to. We need only those lands where we need. Otherwise, more than 90% they are growing naturally. Nothing.
Yes,
We
they
should
are
not
growing naturally. I have
do
already
too much.
told where, but we have some places where it may be degraded. That we should do a degraded places, because if there is no germplasm, there is no seed material available to that location, that places, or if the vegetation which whatever is there is not suitable for our livestock, they are not grazing it, they are not just taking it. That places we should do such intervention. You are not audible, please.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Myself, Dr. Lakhon Patel from West Bengal. You're getting my sir? Hello?
Yes.
Sir, actually, I want to know about apiculture. Okay, so how different forage crop can help for apiculture season-wise? Suppose for Kharif season, there is a problem of different types of farming, normal farming plants for apiculture. So season-wise, which types of forest crops we are taken for better growing of apiculture?
Sir, actually, I am not concerned with apiculture, but during my lecture, I talked about Senfine that is having a good potential for apiculture. I don't know about apiculture in our area. Sorry.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
We are dealing with forage crops, and I am not an entomologist. Sorry.
Any other question, please? Sir, one request which was coming up from all the participants. Hello? Just a second. Sir, if we could get the PPT of the today's lecture also in some way, we'll post it up to the people.
I will make it then, no problem.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I will make a PPT.
Please go ahead.
I was not knowing that there has to be a PPT like that. Until now, I have delivered lectures through Google Meet many times and during this lockdown on different aspects, different issues. But I was not knowing that you are also taking PPT. Till now,
Yeah, sure. We can do PPT during the session. Anyways, sir, if you could, so that participants can get benefited. Thank you, sir. Please ask a question.
That will be good. I will share my PPT with you. I will mail you, and maybe it may be helpful to some participants who are interested.
Please ask the question, please. Any further questions, please? If in case there are no questions, then we might have to end the session. Are there any further questions, please?
I think nobody is asking if
Yeah.
they have questions.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I want to ask one question. Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what kind of forage crop? Sir, what kind of forage crop we can grow in hilly region? Matlab, which is suitable for hills?
See,
Sir, because we are living in hills of Uttarakhand. So, what kind of?
Yes, one.
Sir, I am from Uttarakhand.
In Uttarakhand, we have a very good forage crop which we can grow there, like BN hybrid, Bajra Napier hybrid is there. You can go for
Yes,
that,
sir.
and that is also
Yes,
cultivated in Himachal, and that is Super Napier is there. That is having very good productivity.
Yes, sir.
You can go for that.
Sir, Napier is, we are growing here. Napier is, sir, other than Napier, is this possible to grow?
What do you grow?
Sir, other than Napier, I am asking. Napier, we are going here, and it gives a good result. But other than Napier,
in lower areas you can go for this Guinea grass.
Yes, sir.
So many grass are there.
Yes, sir.
But taking care of the productivity,
Yes, sir.
the BN hybrid is the best one, I think.
So locally available, we can use locally available the grasses.
Which grasses are locally available there?
Sir, locally available grasses like. Sir, I am asking. मतलब जैसे बाज, there are so many.
We have locally
grasses.
available grass everywhere. We have locally available grass everywhere in their wild farmers which are
Yes,
not
sir.
cultivated.
Yes, sir.
We can use them as fodder. But
Yes, sir.
one thing is major concern today. This is the productivity.
Yes, sir.
If their productivity is low, what is the fun of growing those? Second
Yes,
thing,
sir.
I'm not telling that they are useless. During my lecture,
Yes,
I have already emphasized how important they are. These wild farm for improvement of our forage crops. But farmer should always try to cultivate, to adapt that variety, which is that species which is giving him higher fodder productivity, which is quality fodder, so that he can have a better livestock productivity. Because these are interlinked.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we are feeding this low quality fodder, which is also low productive, we have to have a large area to cultivate that, to feed our livestock in terms of production.
Yes, sir.
Even though if we are feeding, the quality is low, So we should always rely on better quality product. That is why I suggested
Yes, sir.
that DN hybrid, if it is going there, it is going there, that you should take up.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
अकाउंट वाला एक बार अपन चेक किए थे याद है
Anything else?
इसको जैसे ये है चल रहे हैं ऑनलाइन क्लासेस, तो इसको लॉगिन करके जैसे छोड़ते हैं, लॉगिन तो हो गया है ये, हाँ है ना, इसको अपन कैसे छोड़ देते हैं बोल रहे थे आप, बोल रहे थे इसको ऐसे बस बंद कर दो, ये चलता रहेगा ये, हाँ।
As I said, so many people have asked for slides. I will make it and I will send you. Hello?
नहीं तो करना ही
सर मेरा मेडिकल वाला तो अग्रवाल जी को
मेडिकल वाला टाइम लगेगा, अभी वो अकाउंट वाला क्लियर कर बन जाएगा
सर, वो अक्टूबर का है मेरा तो
बना रहे थे ना, तो एनालिस्ट में डाल रहे
और उसका भी कैसा टेबिल का
ये भी अभी तो रिलीज आया है। तुमको यार पुराना वाला एक नीलिमा को कर लेके आई थी,
हाँ,
और तुम्हारा वाला में बहुत पैसा है ना।
Hello?
कम पैसा है।
Yes.
मेरा वाला तो कुछ इसमें था वो।
Hello, sir.
Hello.
मेरा सब एंट्री सब हो गया।
I think there was some disruption with the internet.
मेरा वाला ना
There are any questions, please ask.
करके पैसा का एडजस्टमेंट करना।
Hello?
पैसा तो पैसा नहीं।
Hello.
Santosh Sahu, please turn off your microphone.
Okay.
पेंडिंग था इसलिए मेरा डिलीट किया है ना, डिलीट नहीं तो क्यों करते?
Santosh Sahu was
पता मेरे को पता नहीं चला था, बाद में बताया, मैं देखा ना डिलीट क्यों किए थे? मेरे पास तो रखा हुआ था उसका पुराना वाला।
Santosh Sahu, please mute your microphone. Santosh Sahu, please mute your microphone.
हाँ अभी पैसा कम दे रहा है ना।
डिलीट क्यों किया था? मेरे पास तो काफी रखा है, उसमें रखा है।
Hello? Are there any further
Hello?
questions, or we will have to end the session? Hello? Hello? So on behalf of the participants and on behalf of NADCL, I would like to thank sir for being with us during this session. Thank you for this insight, and thank you very much. Sir, let us end the session here on this note. If you possibly could share with us the PPT, that would be helpful for the participants.
Okay, inshallah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Sir, you can leave the call by pressing the leave call.
Okay, thank you.